The movie opens with a man in his late 40s complaining about his life. He thinks he's old and hopeless. The man's name's Stuart. He's a bitter, no-nonsense man who is very lonely. At nearly 50 years old, he sees himself in a state of stagnation and loneliness. He has no prospects for meaningful relationships and feels trapped in a monotonous and uninspiring life. He's never done anything exciting or worthy of praise. He works at a successful company as a bourbon salesman, and he loves the drink more than anything in life. He drinks it so much that it bothers his boss and his co-workers. After weeks of doing nothing but drinking during work, his boss has enough of his attitude and fires him. Stuart is angry at her. He calls her names before leaving the company to go to his apartment to get drunk again. Isolated and bitter, Stuart's existence seems to revolve solely around drowning his sorrows in his lonely bachelor pad. During his spiral of self-pity, Stuart receives a call that may be his lifeline. His close friend, Frank, invites him to come to Paris with him and his family. Stuart is not excited about it, wanting to wallow more in his misery, but Frank convinces him by saying that his daughter is coming too. Frank's daughter is Rosalind, and she's a pretty and smart young woman. She and Stuart have a nice friendship. Stuart has a gift to listen to people with undivided focus, an attribute that Rosalind appreciates. In Paris, Stuart puts his problems aside and tries to enjoy the time in the City of Lights. Along with Stuart and Rosalind are her parents, Frank and Tilly. They go sightseeing in the city and to good restaurants, something that Stuart deeply appreciates. One day, during dinner with his friends, Rosalind mentions that Stuart was the only one to read her thesis. Stuart proudly tells her what he enjoyed about it, which makes Rosalind happy. In a moment of distraction, she jokingly tells Stuart that they should ditch her parents and run away together. Something clicks inside Stuart and he sees Rosalind's joke as a fact. His mind conjures the unfounded idea that she wants to have a relationship with him and that she was being serious about running away with him. Stuart's head isn't in the right place. He's been feeling lonely and miserable, so hearing a young woman like Rosalind casually flirt with him gives him hope. The very next day, he does something that is going to change his life. He buys an expensive ring to propose to Rosalind. Under the Eiffel Tower, Stuart gets on his knee and proposes to her with a heartfelt smile on his face. Rosalind is shocked. She has no idea where he came up with the idea that she's into him. For starters, he's way older than her. They have nothing in common, and Rosalind only meets Stuart when he hangs out with her parents. It's a very awkward situation. Stuart's smile slowly fades away when he realizes that he messed up badly. Rosalind's parents, especially her mother, are offended that Stuart would want to marry their daughter. Rosalind denies his proposal, and she's embarrassed when he calls them soulmates. It's ridiculous. Stuart tries to apologize for his awful blunder, but they aren't willing to listen. Frank tries to calm Tilly down, feeling sorry for Stuart, but it's pointless. She's out for his blood. The family leaves Stuart behind and he sees himself alone again. Not seeing the point in staying in Paris anymore, he packs his bag to go back to the States. At the airport, he finds out that there's no flight for him at that time, so he has to stay in the city. Feeling miserable again, he starts crying in the middle of the airport. A ruggedly handsome man with a heavy Scottish accent sits down next to him to see if he's alright. The man's name's Liam. He's a former soccer player who hurt himself and can't play anymore. Liam is very charming and communicative. Stuart shares his whole life story with him, even the cringy moments. Instead of feeling sorry for him, Liam decides to cheer Stuart up. He invites him to hang out with him and Stuart agrees. They catch a train not knowing where they are going. Stuart doesn't care, as long as he can forget his woes. A beautiful blonde woman enters their booth, catching both their attention. She's wearing a suit, high heels, and she's carrying a silver suitcase. Thinking she can't speak or understand English, Liam and Stuart start commenting about her. Liam's mind is in the gutter, and all he wants is to flirt with her. Stuart's also attracted to the woman, but with Liam at his side, he sees no point in flirting with her. Besides, his mind is still on Rosalind and the way he left things with his friends. The woman opens her suitcase and there's a single bottle of wine inside. She opens it and offers it to them in English, much to their surprise. Stuart immediately feels bad for talking behind her back, but she finds their shocked faces amusing. Liam eagerly accepts the wine and they start talking. They find out that she sells wine. Stuart mentions that he did something similar, selling bourbon, but the woman kindly disagrees with him. She thinks bourbon isn't as sophisticated as wine, and that they are completely different beverages. They start discussing the differences between wine and bourbon, much to Liam's consternation. He's the kind of person who hates not having the attention on himself. Besides, it's obvious that Stuart and the woman share a lot in common, and that bothers Liam. He would never let a man like Stuart get a woman like her to himself. To take the woman's attention from Stuart, he tells the older man that he saw a girl with her parents walking into the train. Stuart immediately thinks it's Rosalind with her parents and excuses himself to go after her. He wants to apologize for his mistake to try and make amends. He doesn't want to lose Frank's or Rosalind's friendship. He finds them in another booth and they are surprised to see him there. They thought he had gone back to the US. Stuart apologizes to Rosalind and tries to give her the ring as a consolation prize. The ring is beautiful and expensive. Tilly is interested in the gift, but Rosalind denies it. Tilly quickly tells him to leave them be, and Stuart goes away with a broken heart. He feels stupid for his mistake. He acted like an overeager teenager, thinking that a girl like Rosalind would want a man like him. His self-pity is back with a vengeance, and by the time he sits next to Liam, it's all he can focus on. Liam and the mysterious woman are animatedly talking about random subjects when she tells them goodbye. Liam isn't willing to let her go so easily. He quickly goes after her with Stuart in his heels. They call her back and ask her where they can stay in the city. The woman finally introduces herself as Louise. She resides in a small village known for its wine production, and she owns half of the most famous vineyard there. While they are walking towards the village, Liam invites Louise to eat with them and she agrees. They go to a fancy restaurant that has a Michelin star. The restaurant's owner is a tall man named Max. Stuart notices that he seems to know Louise very well, and not only as friends. As soon as they sit, Liam announces that dinner is on him. Thinking he has money, Stuart and Louise cheer. The rest of the evening goes by in a blur of good conversation. Wine and great food. Everything is delicious, but Louise's presence tops it all. She's a lively woman, smart, funny, and sophisticated. She can talk about everything, and Stuart has a lot in common with her. Their taste for good food and beverages is one of them. They also share a passion for art and poetry. Louise is pleasantly surprised when Stuart talks about wine poetically. He describes the taste of the wine exactly the way she would, and it makes her heart race a bit faster. If it weren't for Liam, they could have talked for hours. When dinner is over, Liam offers to pay, but his card is denied. Mildly embarrassed about his lack of money, he throws Stuart under the bus, much to the man's consternation. When Stuart takes a look at the bill, he wants to cry. It's very expensive and he's a recently unemployed man. He has no money to pay either. He nervously hands his card to Max, and after a few seconds, he goes after the man. He explains that he has no money and offers to pay later. As a reassurance, he hands Max his engagement ring. After Louise leaves with Max, Stuart is angry with Liam. Liam is drunk and throws all the food he ate up. Stuart wants to throttle the man. They argue for a bit until Liam shows Stuart the bottle of wine he stole from Max's restaurant. Stuart quickly takes it away from him and starts drinking the wine by himself while Liam passes out. While drinking and staring at the dark river in front of him, he feels sorry for himself. He has no idea at what point his life changed so much for the worse. He wasn't happy before, but at least he still had a job and friends. Now, the only thing he has is the stolen bottle of wine and a sad excuse for a companion. After drinking more, he comes up with an idea that may help him salvage his job. He calls his boss to tell her about a deal at a vineyard in France. He explains that he's in contact with the owner and that he can make them sell it to the company. His boss agrees to take him back in case he gets the deal. Stuart agrees. He has no clue how he's going to convince Louise, but he's willing to try. They sleep on the street that day. The next morning, Stuart is ready to leave. He and Liam go towards the town on foot. They have no idea where they are going, and they have no money to call a cab. Luckily for them, on the way, a van appears and they ask for a ride. The van's destination is a vineyard, and they soon learn it's the place where Louise works. The estate where the winery is set is beautiful. Surrounded by lush greenery and rolling hills, the winery has sprawling grounds with manicured gardens and elegant fountains. Louise is there giving a tour to a group of tourists. She's surprised, and a bit peeved, to see Liam and Stuart there. In her distraction, a man asks about the production of wine and she fumbles to answer. Stuart quickly comes to her rescue and explains the process to the man in a very poetic way. Louise is relieved and admires the way Stuart talks again. He knows how to appreciate a good wine, and the way he talks about it is enchanting. She allows him to help her out selling the wine, and it's a huge success. As a way to thank him, she invites them to have dinner with her later on. It works great for them since they have nowhere else to go. Louise introduces them to the other owner of the winery, an older man named Gerard. Gerard is a sickly old man and Louise takes care of him. Stuart thinks they have a father and daughter relationship. That's why she's so worried about him. They drink more wine and Louise admits to them that she hates selling wine. She prefers backstage, but ever since Gerard got sick, the responsibility fell on her shoulders. She thanks Stuart for helping her out and compliments his ability to sell. Stuart is a great salesman. They finally ask her if they can stay there for the night and she agrees. As a show of appreciation to her, Stuart offers to cook for them. While he uses his culinary abilities in the kitchen, Liam and Louise flirt heavily in the living room. The food is great. Another talent that Louise appreciates is Stuart. When Louise leaves to hand Gerard his food, Liam tells Stuart that he's interested in Louise and he's going to make a move. Stuart rolls his eyes at Liam, thinking he's being stupid because there's no way Louise would fall for his cheap lines. He thinks she's sophisticated and too smart for that. Liam disagrees. The rest of dinner is nice and they talk some more. Later on, they are already in the guest rooms and Liam is boasting about Louise. Stuart gets jealous of Liam and he lashes out saying that Louise would probably sleep with Liam out of loneliness. After all, she resides on a big estate with her old uncle, so she must be desperate. Louise overhears him and she's offended. She thought Stuart was a nice man, but hearing him talking about her like that hurts. Stuart tries to fix his mistake, but Louise leaves before he can apologize. He feels like a fool. He only said that out of jealousy and pettiness. Unbeknownst to him, Lousie is also petty and she decides to get revenge on Stuart by sleeping with Liam. The next day, Louise wakes up early to buy bread from a local bakery. There are two women there and a girl. They joke around with Louise, thinking she has her hands full with two new men. Louise bashfully brushes them off and goes back home. Later on, Stuart finds Louise painting in the garden and worriedly approaches her. He apologizes for his ridiculous behavior the night before and says that he's leaving. Lousy silently watches him fumbling with his words. When he turns to leave, she feels bad for him and admits that she feels lonely sometimes. He admits he does too. They are two lonely souls seeking companionship. Louise offers him an olive branch and invites him to go shopping with her. He happily agrees. Then, he compliments her painting, adding that he used to paint too. He surprises Louise again. He is a man of many talents. Louise asks him to paint for her and he agrees. They paint in silence for some time, only enjoying the solitude and peace of the place. It's good for Stuart. He's used to big cities and the constant stress, so taking a moment to relax and let his mind wander is amazing. Louise compliments his painting, which is a contrast to hers. Hers is bright and colorful, and his is more summer, with darker colors. They go shopping later on and have a lot of fun. Stuart can be very charming and witty when he wants to. He mentions that Louise smiles a lot and that she would look just as pretty without her constant smile. Louise is surprised by his words. He's the first person in a long time to notice that her smiles aren't always real, that she's lonely. It warms her. They cook together for Gerard's birthday party and have a lot of fun. There are some guests to celebrate with them, and Gerard looks happy with the commotion. The only one who doesn't look as happy is Liam. Earlier that day he had tried to kiss Louise, but she told him that what they had was a one-time thing. He wouldn't be sleeping with her again. Liam hates to be rejected and it makes him sour. Watching Lousy smiling and laughing with plain, old Stuart is worse. He tries to catch her attention by making a toast, but Stuart tops his toast off with his nice words. Lousy doesn't care for Liam at all. During the whole party, she has eyes only for Stuart. They dance together and laugh a lot. Liam can't bear the sight anymore and leaves the party early. While he's sulking in his room, Stuart and Louise are walking hand in hand around the grounds of the estate. Stuart politely wonders about her and Liam, and she explains that it was a spur-of-the-moment thing. She also asks about Rosalind, and he says the same. In retrospect, he understands that he didn't want to get married to her. He was only trying to find a way out of his issues. After a few moments of talking, they end up kissing. Their connection is undeniable, and all Stuart wants is to hold Lousy for as long as he can. She's a special person. Kind, selfless, open, and very smart. She's the kind of woman he can fall hard for. In turn, Louise thinks Stuart is different and refreshing. She enjoys that he knows how to do a lot of things, and he's an expert in drinks and art. They sleep together that day and it's great. They couldn't be happier with the way the evening ended. Liam accidentally walks into the bedroom, trying to talk to Lousy, and his face falls when he sees them together. Stuart doesn't care about it because he thought Liam only wanted to sleep with Louise. His boss also calls him, but he turns his phone off. He still hasn't found an opportunity to talk to Louise about selling the winery, and he thinks he has a better chance of talking to Gerard. The following day, after talking to his boss about the deal, he meets Liam. The man is angry at Stuart, who has no idea why. They get into an argument that soon turns into a physical fight. Stuart isn't a man who knows how to fight, so Liam overpowers him easily. Stuart is hurt in the process, not that Liam cares. They go their separate ways after the struggle and Stuart complains about the pain. Later on, Stuart has another brilliant idea. He calls his boss to ask her to send him a bottle of bourbon that he stored. Then, he goes to Max's restaurant to offer the bottle in exchange for his ring. The bottle is way more expensive than the ring, so Max accepts it. With his ring in hand, Stuart thinks about Louise. For a second time in less than a week, he thinks about proposing to someone. He also informs Max that he's thinking about buying the winery, but Max laughs at him. He says there's no way that Gerard would sell it. He also mentions that Gerard is Louise's husband, much to Stuart's consternation. He can't believe it. He feels played, even though Louise never said that Gerard was her uncle. It's a strange situation, and Stuart is ready to confront Lousy about it. He goes back to the winery and interrupts her tour by asking her why she lied to him. To his surprise, his friends are there, including Rosalind. They all watch as Stuart embarrasses the poor woman. Louise admits that she's married, but she doesn't see the issue with it. She doesn't know why Stuart is so mad at her. For her, it was clear that she was married to Gerard. Stuart doesn't know what to think. Liam approaches him to say goodbye and hugs him. He says there are no hard feelings between them and leaves. It's time for Rosalind to approach Stuart. After some time away from him, she realized why he did what he did. She thinks he's just having a middle-age crisis. Stuart apologizes to her and acknowledges it was a terrible idea. Rosalind asks to see the ring again, out of curiosity, and Stuart agrees. When he pets his pockets, he can't find the ring box. Liam stole it from him when they hugged goodbye. The Scotsman quickly leaves the winery, getting in the same car as Rosalind and her parents. Stuart can't believe his bad luck. He thought things were finally looking up for him. Louise approaches him to talk and explain her situation with Gerard to him. She used to be an artist, but when she met Gerard, she fell for him hard. She gave up her dream to work with him, and after he got sick, their relationship wasn't the same. They still were friends, but they realized there were no romantic feelings. Instead of separating, though, Louise preferred to stay with Gerard to take care of him. She still loves him, just not like before. Stuart understands the situation, which is a relief. At the same time, he wants to have more with Louise, and knowing she's married doesn't help. Meanwhile, Liam asks Rosalind out and she agrees. While they are talking, he tells her his tragic romantic story. He says that he loved a woman and that she didn't agree to marry him. He even has their engagement ring with him. Rosalind asks to see it, and when he opens the box, she can't believe her eyes. It's Stuart's ring. She pretends she didn't notice and asks to try on the ring. Her parents arrive right at this moment and they can't believe someone is proposing to their daughter again. Louise explains to them that the ring belonged to Stuart and that Liam stole it from him. They threaten to call the police, but Liam apologizes. He confesses that he's broke and that's why he stole the ring. Rosalind surprisingly feels sorry for him and invites him for lunch. He agrees. They go out together to eat, much to her parents' consternation. Stuart finds the courage to talk to Gerard about selling the winery when he's alone, watching the sunset. Gerard tells him that he knows his story with Louise, but it's obvious she isn't very happy anymore. By selling the winery, Gerard could make Louise's life more comfortable. She would be able to paint for a living, and Stuart would take care of everything. Gerard admits that he only wants what is best for Louise, and he knows he's holding her back. In the middle of his speech, he starts coughing and has a heart attack. Stuart tries calling for help, but it's too late. Gerard passes away with Stuart as a witness. Louise is very sad. Despite not having a romantic relationship anymore, Gerard was her closest friend. They have lived together for years. While she's mourning, Stuart tries to give her space. He isn't very happy either, but for purely selfish reasons. He thinks that now that Gerard has passed, it will be hard to sell the winery. He doesn't think Louise will want to sell it. He talks to her boss and asks for more time to talk to her. Louise arrives in the middle of his conversation and overhears everything. His betrayal cuts her deeply. She thinks that the only reason he got involved with her was because of the money he would make. By the time Stuart notices her there, it's already too late. He tries to explain that Gerard accepted selling the winery for her good, but Louise can't believe it. She thinks it's too convenient that he talked to Gerard moments before he passed away and he agreed with him. She thinks Stuart is a lying, manipulative man, and she can't bear to be in the same place as him. She tells him to get out of her house and to leave her alone. There's nothing that Stuart can say to assuage his guilt. He did things behind her back, and he knows he's wrong. He should have talked to her from the beginning. His insecurities and self-awareness prevented him from doing the right thing. Now, he's alone again. With nowhere else to go, Stuart goes back to the States. He gets his job back, but Louise and the ring are lost to him. He tries fixing things between them by constantly calling her, but she never answers. A few days later, Rosalind sends him the engagement ring back to him, which is a great relief. He spent a lot of money on it. His life is very bleak and ordinary after France. He's working again, but it's not as fun as it used to be. His apartment is still empty, and he has no one to share the good and bad moments in his life. He feels miserable with the way things ended with Louise. He felt a strong connection to her, and he was sure she did too. He felt like an idiot for doing things behind her back. His mind is always thinking about Louise, where she's, what she's doing, and with who. He wonders if she forgot about him already and if she's alright. A week goes by like this and Stuart can't take it anymore. During his trip, he learned there were better things in life besides drinking bourbon and working. He wants to have excitement again, to be surrounded by happy people like he was. He wants to see Louise smiling again, to drink wine and talk to her. He wants her. Stuart decides to drop everything and go after the one he loves. He doesn't care about the consequences. All he cares about is finding Louise to tell her that he loves her and that she's the best thing that has ever happened to him. It may sound cheesy, but that's how he feels. While he gets ready to go to France, Louise gets ready to leave her estate. She's been lonely in the big place, without